Hello, I am Jamie Ballard of Cupcakes and Haystacks, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how you can quickly and easily create real-life elements inside of Canva Pro with transparent backgrounds. Now there are a lot of different ways that you can use these particular elements. I personally am a digital planner creator, and I like to use these elements to decorate or to enhance the mock-ups that I'm creating for my listing photos. Okay, so once I finish creating a digital planner, I then need to list it for sale on a platform like Etsy. In order to give my customers a really realistic idea of what they can expect to receive when they purchase my product, I want to make sure that I'm creating a very realistic mock-up. That means having an iPad that's going to have an accurate depiction of my digital planner within it. But then also I want to have supporting images surrounding my iPad, like maybe a coffee cup, some pencils, some office supplies, snacks, things like that, so that when my customer is looking at my listing photo, it doesn't just look like a pretty mock-up. I want them to look at it and be able to imagine what it would be like to use my digital planner in a real life situation. Okay, so that means making sure that we have very realistic images. Now in the past, I have spent lots of money on scene creators, probably more than what I would like to admit. And scene creators are basically just a bundle of real life elements, like what I mentioned, that have transparent backgrounds and realistic drop shadows already added to them. Now, in the past, this is not something that I've been able to do with Canva, but they have made leaps and bounds with some of their different tools available to you inside of Canva Pro. And kind of playing around with some things over the past week, I've realized that I can create an unlimited number of these elements without having to pay for the scene creators anymore. Okay, so I want to show you a couple hacks that I've discovered. I'm hoping that they're going to help you to up-level things like your listing photos as well. Now before we start actually creating our elements, we need to first decide what our perspective is going to be, and we have two options. So the first is going to be flat lay. That's kind of like an aerial view. Okay, so you're going to be pretending that you are looking down on a desktop. Okay, so everything is lying flat on that desktop. That's going to affect the specific images that we choose and the drop shadows that we create. Our other option is going to be front view, and it's just like what it sounds. It's going to be like you are sitting or standing and you are looking straight at something, like you would a television. Okay, so those are our two options. Now when it comes to creating listing photos, you can certainly go both ways. I personally favor flat lay. Sometimes I'll mix in a few of the front view, but because I feel like flat lay is probably going to be the most popular, let's go ahead and start there. So I'm going to come on over here to my elements, and I want to do a search for, how about we do a search for a device, okay? It's not uncommon within your listing images to have, like for me with my digital planners, I'll have an iPad with an image of my digital planner in the iPad, but then I'll also maybe add in like a cute cell phone or some headphones, things like that, a keyboard, maybe a closed laptop. So let's start with, let's add in an iPhone, but I want mine to be colorful. So if I type in just a normal iPhone, I'm going to come over here and let's go to photos. That's where we're going to get all of our realistic images. And let's click on this, for example. This is ultimately what we're going for. You can see it has a transparent background and it has that realistic drop shadow already attached to it. The problem though is that this doesn't really do much for me. I want to have something that's colorful, something a little bit more fun, which is going to be harder to find with already made for you transparencies. Okay, so I'm going to delete this out, and instead I'm going to type in a color with it. Go. And I like this. All right, so you can see that this is it's like a little turquoise phone or mint green, and I'm going to make this smaller. I'm going to put it up here, and then I'm going to make a copy of it. All right, and I'll show you why we'll have that copy here in a minute. But let's make this a bit bigger, and we're just going to focus on this here. Okay, so because this image only has one element in it, the process for making this a transparency with a realistic background is going to be super simple. I'm just going to come on up here and I'm going to select background mover. Now I'm using a beta version of Canva right now, so if your screen doesn't look like mine, all you need to do is go to wherever your background remover is. It may be under edit instead, and I'm going to choose to remove that background. Okay, so now we have this image here, right? And it did a great job of removing that background. The problem though is that it doesn't have any drop shadows, so it does not look like a realistic image, and that's something that's really important to us. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to make this a bit bigger, and what I want to do is I'm going to play with my drop shadow settings until I can mimic this particular drop shadow over here. So this is going to be a really good thing to keep in mind. If you are not really familiar with how drop shadows work, they are very important. A bad drop shadow is going to completely ruin the look. It's no longer going to look like a realistic iPhone sitting on a desktop. So this is what I recommend that you do. We have our duplicate here, but I'm going to select the one that we just created, okay? And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose edit, and then I'm going to come down to shadows. And zoom out here a little bit, and I'm going to start selecting the different shadow options until I find one that looks the most like what we see right here. I have a feeling it's going to be just a basic drop shadow. Okay, you can see here that it's on the opposite side, so I'm going to swing it around till it's on the correct side. And if you can see, the drop shadow here, there isn't really on top, it's mostly here on the left hand side and on the bottom. Okay, so I can see here that that is accurate. That's what I've done. But the drop shadow here is, it's too big, okay? It makes it look like it's actually kind of levitating off of the desktop instead of sitting flat on it. So we need to come down here and we need to change the distance and make it smaller. All right, here we go. And now what I want to do is I'm going to play with the intensity a little bit. And I feel like that looks really accurate. All right, so I'm going to delete out this other one. There we go. And I can make this a little bit smaller because it's remembering the size of what the entire photo was, so we don't need all of that extra. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Now, one thing that you can also do to adjust how realistic it looks is you can actually change up the color of that drop shadow. So I could probably choose something that is a little bit warmer to complement this off-white color. So in order to do that, I'm going to select my phone. I'm going to come here to edit, and I'm going to come down to shadows, and you can tell that I already have a shadow because it has this tool option on top of it. I'm going to scroll down here to color. I'll click on my little color wheel. I'm going to make this more of like a brownish orange color, and I still want it to be dark, but I'm just making it more of a dark brown instead of black. And there we go. We have a realistic flat lay iPhone in a very cute color. This would look adorable in any mock-up, okay? So I want to show you another way that we can create these. Alright, so with this particular iPhone, the background remover worked really well because there was only one image in that photograph. But what happens when you have a lot of different images inside of one photograph, or even two images, okay? We're going to have to take a different approach to this particular process, all right? So we're going to come down here, and I'm going to once again come on over to my elements. And I actually have a few set aside. Let's see if we can use any of these. Let's grab this image here, okay? I'm going to zoom in and make sure we have a good quality image here. Alright. I'm going to move this over, and just like before, we are going to make a duplicate. zoom in. So we have several really great different images that we can use here. We have our AirPods, we have a mouse, and then a partial keyboard, okay? And let's see here. So we're going to come back up here with it selected, with just one of the images selected, and we are going to choose Edit, okay? Now before we use the background remover, it won't work obviously for this one, but actually let me show you what happens when we do choose the background remover. So we have these images here, and they are great with their background removed, but the problem with this is that they are all grouped together. We can't separate them from each other, okay? It's also going to make it difficult to create realistic drop shadows, because the drop shadows are going to be applied to everything, not just one particular element. Alright, so we need to find a way that we can select these images individually. So I'm going to go back. And I also need to give the disclaimer that I was not the one who discovered this. I was bragging to my friend Michelle of Wild and Solo, and she wanted to do me up, and so she went in and started playing. She's like, oh, that's excellent, but have you tried Magic Grab yet? So I started playing with Magic Grab, and she was right. It's amazing, and that's what we're going to be using. Okay, so with this selected, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to select Magic Grab. In this process, it takes a little bit longer than the background remover does, but I promise it's worth it. So now you can see when I hold my cursor over top of the elements, they turn like this purplish blue color. It didn't turn colors for the AirPods, but that doesn't mean you can't still use the tool for them. Okay, so when I click on it, it'll take a moment to figure it out. But you can see that now it lights up that blue color. And you're just going to want to click the things that you want within one grouping. Okay, so I'm going to select this one as well, because I plan on keeping those together in my design. Here we are. And then I'm going to choose Grab. Now, I might in the end choose to go back and select them individually if I find that I have a difficult time creating a drop shadow that complements both of the AirPods, okay? But we're just going to test this out and see how it goes. Alright, so I'm going to move this. Go. And I can take it off of the page. I'm just leaving it on here, because I feel like it's probably going to help me with my drop shadows a little bit, okay? Alright, so with that selected, I'm now going to come down with drop shadows. And I'm going to start playing around with them to see which one gives me the most realistic look. And you'll see that with this particular tool, sometimes the image comes out of the box. All you need to do is expand it. I'm going to keep moving that around. So you can see that the shadow here, it's mostly on the left side and a bit on the top, alright? And I think that that's probably a pretty good representation. I'm going to bring the distance down so it's sitting a bit closer. I think I'm going to bring down the intensity. And I'm going to adjust the color a little bit as well, because I can already tell. Do you see how I might need to change the color again once I bring it off of this orange color? But you can see that it just doesn't look incredibly real in that black color. And this is a good visual of how adjusting the color of your drop shadows can make a big difference. I think that's a pretty good match with the color. Okay, so you can see that the shadows, they aren't exactly the same, but they are very similar. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it right on up here. Stretch this out. And I might end up making the drop shadows a little bit more brown than what they are now. But there we go. You can see that they're completely separated from the overall design. And you can see also that once I escaped from the editing mode, the clarity became a little bit more clear. Okay, so then let's say I want to grab this keyboard. Okay, so I'm going to select this image, I'm going to come up here to edit, and I'm going to choose my magic grab again. And this time I'm going to grab that keyboard. I'll select grab. Go. Alright, and this time I think because I'm done with this image, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete it out in the background. Alright, so then we are left with just this partial keyboard. Okay, and it's okay to use partial images because chances are you're not really going to fit an entire keyboard on your mock-up image anyway. Okay, alright, so now we need to work on our drop shadow. So I'm going to come on up here to edit. I'll grab my shadow and we are just going to play. There are some elements where these other shadows work really well, but a lot of times for the flat lay you will find that you end up using for the most part just the basic drop shadow. I'm interested with this angled one though, because you can see here that here at the top the drop shadow extends further than it does here down at the bottom, and I'm not sure if perhaps I can mimic that, but it looks like it would do it on the opposite side. So I don't think that's going to work. Alright, so I'll just go with the basic drop. We'll change that angle. You can see that it's mostly here on the left hand side with just a little bit at the top. There we go. And I'm going to bring the distance down. Go. And adjust the blur a little bit. And then of course we can make changes to the color if we'd like to. Try to make it close to the others. There we go. And there we have our partial keyboard. So I'll take this, I'll paste it up here. Go. And there we have a variety of different devices, okay? And these things that I'm showing you here, they are not limited to devices. It can work for absolutely everything, okay? Now, one other thing that I did want to show you is, let's say I wanted this phone to look like it was standing up instead of laying down as a flat lay, okay? I'm going to twist this here. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to come down here to where I have the solid color here at the bottom. We're going to pretend that that is a desktop, okay? And let's say that this phone, we do not want it to be leaning to be lying down. We want it to be propped up, okay? That means we're going to have to make some adjustments to our drop shadow. So with this selected, I'm going to come over here to edit, and I'm going to come to shadows, and let's just take a look at the different options that we have available to us here, okay? Let's see if any of them make it look like it is sitting straight up. we'll select curved. That obviously is not going to work even when we change the distance. Page lift doesn't work. And angle doesn't work. Now the reason why none of these work is because there should not be a shadow that encompasses the entire device. We want a shadow that's just along the bottom, okay? So I'm going to select none, and now instead of using the shadow tools, I'm going to come over here to elements, and I'm going to type in drop shadow. Canva has a ton of already created drop shadows that you can apply to your images, okay? So I'm going to start with this one here, all right? And it may not seem like much, but you'd be surprised at what this one little shadow can do to make it look like it's actually standing up. I'm going to take this and I'm going to choose to position it to the back. Oops. There we go. Alright, so there's the start. What I want to do though is I want there to be also a shadow right here at the very bottom. Alright, so I'm going to come here and I'm going to try out a few of these. I want this to be the same size and width as my device. Bring it down. You might have to play with it a little bit until you get it just the way you want it to look. But then I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it backward. Alright? So it's not a huge change, but there will be a darkness right along the bottom, and you might need to make some changes to it overall. Like, we can make it smaller, or we can make it bigger. We can come up here to our transparency and we can change how dark it is, okay? And it could be that you've decided like maybe that isn't the perfect shape for it, okay? We can delete this out. Oops. Let's put this backwards. We'll delete that out. And we'll try a different one. Maybe this one is going to look better. Let's bring this down here. Probably make it smaller. And there we go. All right, so don't be afraid to kind of play with things and just see how realistic you can make it look. And if you ever have any question about what something should look like as far as the shadows, even if you're working with an image that is already transparent but doesn't have a shadow, just search through the photos and the elements of a similar design and take a look at what the drop shadow looks like, or take something in real life, pick up your phone and set it up and see what kind of shadows it creates, okay? But this is going to be a really easy and quick way and much more affordable way than purchasing scene creators to get these elements for all of your listing photos. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions about this, don't be afraid to pop them in the comments down below. If you like this tutorial and you'd like to see more like it in the future, make sure to like this video and then subscribe to my channel. Have a beautiful day.